Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk to you about my experience as a customer service. I'm a half backup of agronomical engineer, and then I was bike messenger for a few years. And between 2014 and 2018, I've worked in customer experience and customer support at a small startup that grew quite a lot. That was called Captain Train. Then in rebranding Trainline, we sold train tickets on the internet. Okay, I think a few of you may know it. So yeah, let's talk about customer service. Customer service is becoming a subject in the tech scene and the startup scene. I see you are all here, but it's not the most. It used not to be the most glamorous function of the company, and something people used not to pay a lot of attention. You had an image like this of customer support, so it was plagued, and even today, like my last experience with customer service, can you remember what with a telecom company, I called them for, well, it was a nightmare. It was a few days ago, and I hated it. So they did all the mistakes and things you usually associate in your head with customer service. So one thing that bothers you a lot is you call and then you call and you call again, and people don't seem to remind you, so you have to tell the same story to everyone, and sometimes it's like, oh, it's not the right service, so you've told your story for 2 minutes, pass to someone else, and repeat again. So that's middle infuriating. Nobody takes responsibility, of course. You've got standardized answers, so I call for, like, I send an email for something, I found the answer in the FAQ, but I have a personalized email, the FAQ doesn't seem to solve it, and just I receive a copy-paste of the FAQ. I'm like, okay, my email described a specific situation, had specific questions, how dare you? Unlimited text expertise. Usually when I contact someone I make sure, like, I have a problem with, let's say, with my telecom, so I don't know, I don't have, the DNS is screwing up, so I tell the guy the DNS is having problems, and the guy doesn't know what is a DNS server, so what's the point of having you there? And of course, you could imagine usually it could be a point to make big companies change, so you should do that, or I like to see that. Well, it's not something that works. And waiting on Vivaldi, my favorite part. So that's how a lot of companies do customer service and how it was delivered for years. And now, like, you have good experiences. It's happening a lot in the US. It's coming to Europe. And once you taste it, you can go back. So you need to be prepared to have this in your company. So what is expected from customer support? First thing is just, and it seems stupid, but be a professional of your product, of your industry. So it really know your stuff and provide accurate answer if there is an answer to provide, and to solve the problem if there is a problem to solve. And that means you need to have expertise in the specific product you are selling. You are selling shoes, you need to be a shoe expert. And you are selling an app, you need to know how an app works. We have someone in our company that was a developer, answered sometimes some questions. He was really bad at writing, had excellent satisfaction from the customers just because he did that. Second thing is to be fast. That's something not told in us, but that's the only thing customers really care. So that's enough in reality. But you can do a little bit more, so be human, write correctly, and feel the customer empathy. Okay, and theoretically, customers are very happy about that. So that's good intentions. That's how everybody says after hanging up the phone that should be customer service. It's not that easy to do. In startups, you have a few challenges more. So doing customer support in startups is not the same thing. First thing is you have a huge growth to handle. And you can't triple your support team every year, so you have to find other solutions. Best one is diminish the contact rate. We'll talk about that later. Second thing is you have a double share of support. So because usually you have a software product that supports something else. We used to have an app that had payment for train tickets, and we need to know all the stuff. So knowing how to debug an app and knowing how train works. So it was a lot of knowledge. And last thing, usually a lot of startups have a complicated business model with low margins. So it means, again, we'll go to the contact rate part. Okay, there is one only secret to do all that, is just to have the good people in your company doing that. So the thing is, so that used to be my team. They really are, I miss them a lot. How do you get to have the right people? Because it's all that. Be a pro, it's people that can understand the things, good writing, it's just people. The first thing is to have people be in a company that shares that, so that's why I'm here in reality, is try to convince bosses of this vision. So yeah, it's a real profession with valuable skills. I insist on that. If you want to have someone that is intelligent enough to solve the most complicated problem your users may encounter, he's expensive in reality. Second thing is, well, do like you do for developers or marketing. So evaluate the skills of people, how they write, and make sure they have excellent writing, etc. It's a real profession, like explaining something complicated simply. Having the empathy skills and everything, well, it can be evaluated. So we spent, and then internal training, especially on your market, documentation, your product, blah blah. And so you in reality you are doing a little bit than just customer service. When you have these people, it's customer experience. It's you have two missions. It's ensure the customer stays wowed good with your product, and ensure that in every department of your company. And yes, that's done a lot by ensuring the voice of your customer is heard inside the company. So one thing, I don't know if you heard, but for a long time we did only customer support by email and Twitter and Facebook. So that's our specificity, and I really advise to start only with that. Chat is complicated. Chat can be really deceptive, because if you don't have an answer in the second, it starts to be deceiving. So better start with email and social medias. People ask the phone. The thing is, people ask the phone because they don't have good experience with good answering times with email. Usually what we saw is that customers were asking for the phone, and then they were addicted to email. So just dropping a name, but Zero Inbox, check it if you haven't heard. It's the process which you do customer service by email. Some guidelines, just some tips. So I said it's a real profession, knowing how to answer emails. There are tips on the internet, so a lot of but my favorite ones are there. So just something stupid, but be honest with your customers. Really, it pays. Like trying to bullshit your customers is the worst idea ever. And every time we did it, and every time I tried to did it, I regretted it. So yeah, never lie. So and worst thing, if you lie on writing, it will come back at you. Like customer has a proof. So yes, just don't do that. A promise is a debt. Same thing. If you promise something to the customer by email, he will come back at you with this promise if you don't fulfill it. They don't forget. So just have that in mind. If you say this will happen always. Better say nothing than that's I think a tip. Like when I write an email replying to a customer, I scan the whole email for this mark here. It's a question mark, and question mark are important. So like in my mind, I highlight like this the email of my customer, and a good tip is answering every question. Quote it, answer it. It's like, don't be like a politic on the radio on the morning. There is a question and he answers the theme, but he doesn't answer the specific question. The more like you answer is really quand pensez-vous ce qu'on en pense, the best the customer is satisfied. And usually this kind of tips works. That was an example of, that was the answer to my last email. One thing I really want to talk to you about is like the best support is no support. Is how to make your customers do not contacting you. And in reality, what you have to have in mind is you want to be more, do more technical support than customer service, because customer service, traditional way, is having people doing repetitive things over the phone, like pushing buttons for you. Like, I want to change my phone plans. Okay, yes, I will change your phone plan for you. And that doesn't make sense. And that's not things you want to have your people you're paying doing for you. So in reality, you want to expose every functions of users may do through your product and have your tech support only troubleshooting it and answering through bugs or ergonomy problems or these kind of things. So your work as customer support is really to be lazy and think, okay, every contact, how can I avoid it next time? And it's avoiding because it just gives you more work, but it's also because it's an opportunity for the company. If there is a problem, a question, it can be solved by a good market fit or talked about a lot. So really pay attention to that. That used to be our metrics. So contact rate is just how many emails you receive on how many transactions, and the goal is to lower it and lower it. So yeah, that was sales of the company for a while and how many emails flat we received. So as I told, a customer should be doing all actions by himself. In reality, it's not always the case, but for example here, partial cancellation, that was something that was really important for us, that was simple to do so that customers wouldn't contact us to say, how can you cancel the tickets for us? No, you will do it yourself, here is how it works. And then you take simply every contact reason and you say, how can I solve that by the product? So people used not to understand that tickets couldn't be, French ticket couldn't be retrieved abroad. Warning, for example. Warning is awesome for customer service. They ask for it everyone, like this kind of thing. Changing the name on your account, no, it won't change the names on your ticket. That was changed. Just we stopped receiving emails about that. Even when it's not our fault, like people purchasing twice the same tickets, it's a lot. It used to be a lot of contacts in Trainline. We just put this warning, and awesome, they stopped writing for us. So product solution and this. So how do you prioritize? Because you will have to interact with your product and development team. So you could spend a lot of time doing metrics. What really worked at Captain Train and Trainline was simple top of mind. So we had a Trello board, and we said, okay, the most annoying thing, top 5. And we had meetings with product guys and say, okay, solve that. It may be not your top of mind, the really most volume, but anyway, it's a problem you solved, and usually when you take top of mind problems, annoying customer service, it's real problems, so it's worth solving. And this is how we got, with this low-tech solution, we got the decrease of contact rate we had, like 10 times. So yes, customer support and experience is one entry of the roadmap of development teams. It's not the only one. When you work at customer support, you also have to understand there are investors and they have other things to worry than you. So it's a little bit of equilibrium, and that's one of the innovation we have. So sometimes, like for example, you get to do things that do not make sense from an investor's point of view. Train tickets for pets are €7. We're not making any margin out of this, but this generated so much customer satisfaction when we did, and it was really pushed by customer service. But one solution to avoid a little bit this struggle, and one innovation we had at Trainline was having developers for customer support, and that was total game changer because they could do two things. They could give us good tools, and good tools make you go faster and make you more accurate. When you have solutions to understand the logs, understand what really happened with your customers, and give him the good answer, that changes it. So, and second thing, they could also implement, so they were full stack developers, they could implement specific changes that were really taking the pain out of the customer service and the customers without being dependent on other roadmaps. So basically it was developers whose roadmap was controlled by customer service. And when all that, you really don't have time, one solution is have an FAQ. Everybody should have a good FAQ. The only problem with the FAQ is that you hide a problem. When you put an article in your FAQ, you forget that there is a product problem first. So in theory, a customer should never have to find an answer in an FAQ. Sometimes when you don't have time, and that's the only solution, but remind this, finding something is already a bad experience. You shouldn't have to worry. So that was our FAQ. Contextual FAQ, like the content on the sidebar, depends on your where you are, on which page, your previous answers, etc. That was working really well. And another thing, last thing that can help you keep your company customer-oriented is have everybody in support. I don't know if you heard that. It's just like everybody is doing a little bit of customer support in the company. That really helps your overall company growth, because especially in tech companies, you don't see the customer face to face. So if you don't write to him sometimes, you forget what he looks like. And having everybody in the company really understand the customer, how he reacts to your product, what he needs, who he is, really helps marketing guys, developers, CEO, so that was our CEO, do better their job. So everyone on support programs should be a part for me of every company. They're not there for the volume, they're there for making the company more plus pertinent in what they do. So that was the things we saw first of problems of customer service. That's the thing you usually associate with customer service. So you can do it another way. You can have people in your company building and really having an influence on the product. They can write correctly and be nice and answer individually to each customer. They can really do the stuff customers ask them. And they can answer fast, sometimes in 1 hour an email. And that's it, that works. If you are interested more, so I'm saying all that, but there is a whole book about that. That was my ex-manager. He made a full book. I think it's still selling. It's a success, but read it. This book is awesome. So all that really works. That's the customer satisfaction we were getting at Captain Train with this method. And this is the best advertising your company could do. Like really investing in your customer service sometimes is more money worth than any marketing campaign you can do. Well, thanks a lot. I hope you appreciated it.
Hello. I had a question. How do you organize your emails internally?
Okay, so for a long time during growth, it wasn't a problem because our volume and answering times just made that you could just take the older one and that's it. So just you have a queue, you take the older one, and the idea was that everybody was to be competent, have enough knowledge to answer any ticket. So it was at first, okay, you're beginner for a few months, pick up the ticket. So you are allowed to just open one and see, okay, I don't know that, and pass to the next one. And we had a watch function. So when you did that, you were like, okay, I don't know the answer, but I click on a button and I'll get notifications when a a colleague will answer it. So I will watch his answer and learn from him. And then after this first part, you were just taking the bottom of the queue and going up. So, and then we mixed it up a little bit. One team was going from bottom up and the other one from up to bottom, because up to bottom, most recent, you have a higher customer satisfaction and it feels good in your day, because like someone receiving an answer in 3 minutes is like, oh wow, I forgot this. But that's it. One team up, one team down, and joining in the middle at the happy zero inbox. That happens sometimes, it's existing.
Hi. What do you think about email automation with machine learning?
Like a bot answering your customers.
I would say maybe more clever than a bot.
I think that everything that is automated is good. Like now I'm a software developer, so I love it, but it should be identified as such to your customers. Remember the don't lie to the customers. Like, I mean, a customer should know when something was written by a machine, but if it is good for him, good for him. Just don't try to make it pass by for a human, else you will deceive your customers.
Thanks. C'est trop près.
Yeah, hello. I was wondering, you were talking about the KPIs that you're using. Could you mention the contact rate?
Yes.
Did you follow others, and which one?
So our KPIs was contact rate. It was answering time. As I said, it was one of the most important things. Then it was strangely amount of tickets by agent, but not in the way you think. So more wasn't good. The ideal was to have a fair spread amongst the team and not pass a certain threshold where people were starting to just answering emails like machines and not caring really about the customers. And last thing was we were soft measuring customer satisfaction by just measuring how many wow reaction we were getting by the customers. So when someone was writing back, oh wow, that was the best customer service I had in years, well, we were just measuring those and ensuring it was staying a fair share of the answers.
When you say customer satisfaction, how did you measure it? Was it like a number of stars at the end of the conversation? Or?
So no, and one thing we decided was not to do satisfaction measures like sending a survey afterwards, because it felt a little bit awkward. First, we trusted each other to be good, and so that's not something you would do for other professions. You do that for people you don't trust, in fact. And also because it felt weird. It was like, I'm being really nice and human someone to you, so now rate me. Yeah.
And so how did you do it then?
So just we were soft measuring the kind of reaction we got back from the customer. Nothing, or pissed off, or yeah, okay, thanks, it's good, or oh wow. So we had this 4-scale measure, and this was a way not to annoy the customer by another survey email, but try to also get an idea of the mood.
So it was like customer care at the end, or like
no.
Putting the stars at the
no.
end? No. Okay. Other question?
Hello. How did you train the people to get the tone and the humanity? You can't write all the mail at the beginning, so how can you train them?
So yeah, training was a long process, but basically yes, we were reviewing emails for like just you had a buddy, someone that was whose role was to be focused on you, more experienced member of the team, and you were for a while just sending every email like for a few weeks, like this is what I intend to send. Okay, until you get enough confidence on you. And then also we were doing sometimes even being experienced some random writing reviews. So you can do like a developer, every code is reviewed. You can do that by emails, but sometimes, even after a few years in the company saying, hey, this is the email I intend to send. We had a Slack channel for that. What do you think of this email? And yeah, this allowed everybody to calibrate, because you do that, but everybody sees, so everybody gets advice. Yeah, you should do that, and we kept our tone that was consistent. We had a tone guide also after a while, a big PDF. And also everybody had its own style. So there was a general guidelines, but like I wasn't using the same voice by email than my colleagues. Everyone was allowed to have its own personality.
Which tool did you use to write those emails with your team and track all those emails?
I'm not sure to understand.
Which tool did you use?
So we used an old system called OTRS, which was a German open source ticketing system that looks like out of the 80s. I think it's out of the 80s, but like it's open source and we had in-house developers, we tweaked it and we really adapted and interlinked it with our system. So it was the best tool ever. Like we had like a customer writing to us, sidebar, everything about the tickets, the person, the previous interactions. So so I wouldn't recommend it if you don't have this capacity of open source is good if you can tweak it. Else there are plenty of solutions on the market. I would go today for Help Scout for a small company.
You said you have a specific Trellos for your customers' feedback. How do you manage the link between these Trellos and your product backlog?
Well, if you had a bug, a real bug, first thing is you should do a bug issue the closer to the developer you can. So really in GitHub or GitLab or where he has his to-do list. So see, if you sneakily put something in the to-do list of a developer, he will do it. So that's the best way to have things solved. But then the Trello was more for complicated bugs, something that was like you had a developer looking at it and this. So it was more, we had a double link in reality. So first, real bug in the bug tracker, and then interlinking things with just hyperlinks. So Trello card here, GitHub issue here, and that's it. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody.
Que la famille.